All right, everybody, welcome back to ZT Fully Loaded. As promised, today is our fantasy football preview draft. What we'll be doing that is joining a mock draft on ESPN, which I'm about to enter. And who I have with me today is my boy Adrian Minhares. You can catch him live on Twitch playing video games, but I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself. Go for it.
How's it going? What's going on, everyone? My name's Adrian. Appreciate the intro, Zach. Like you said, you can catch me on Twitch. It's Adrian Knows _, and I'm excited about the fantasy football.
Yeah, so this is going to be the first time we do this. Thank you very much for being a part of it. Bear with us, guys. I'm going to ask Adrian a couple questions before we get started. We start the draft in 40 seconds, so it's going to work is we'll go through our picks. We'll have a couple commentaries, but we'll also analyze our own picks, tell you why we hate other picks, where we see value, things of that nature. But I'll give you a couple of insights on the leagues that we're in currently or have been in the past, because not all of them are snake drafts, especially not our favorite one. So with that being said, Adrian, I'm number one pick, but I'll start off with you in the past. Who has been your favorite draft pick throughout the years, and tell me a little bit why.
Yeah, for sure. So in our draft league, it's kind of a little bit different. So my favorite pick was definitely Derrick Henry. It's the year he kind of went off. He had like 4 or 5 games of over 200 yards total. So that was he basically carried me to basically getting to the playoffs. And then I believe he got injured, so kind of derailed my season from there. He was basically him alone was basically like a one-man army. The way our point system was going, he had like over 100 points just by himself.
Yeah, I don't know why Adrian has an obsession on Derrick Henry. I guess he kind of explained it, but year in and year out, it's all about Derrick Henry for him. So let's go ahead and recap these first picks that we just made. I went ahead and got Justin Jefferson at pick number 1. I honestly hate pick number 1 this year. It's a little bit difficult, like between Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. For me, even Christian McCaffrey, and honestly, I have Cooper Kupp pretty high as well. How do you feel about your pick and number 1 pick, Adrian?
Yeah, the number 1 pick for this year, if you're able to trade back, I would definitely trade back. I would not feel comfortable with the number 1 because I think it's the same value as basically the number 5 or 6, to be honest. I picked here at number 5, and I was able to get Bijan. So McCaffrey and Eckler went before him, as well as the 2 well-known Jefferson and Chase. So I actually like the Bijan pick around there.
Yeah, I think Bijan's going to be a top 5 running back. It just depends on how much Desmond Ridder has improved, to be honest with me. I think that's where a lot of his utility is going to be revolved around. If it's a highly durable and highly dynamic offense, I think he's set up to be in the contention for number 1 overall fantasy player. But that's the worry that I have is just Desmond Ridder's play at quarterback.
Yeah, most definitely. That's the thing that's kind of scaring me. As well as I don't know if they mentioned it before. He's going to be the goal line as well. So I know they still have 2 other running backs on the team. But even then, just his receiving threat, I know that's going to be used quite a bit. So that's going to be something that's a great value there.
Yep. And just to recap some of the picks, we have Jamar Chase going 2nd, Austin Eckler going 3rd, McCaffrey going 4th. Adrian picks up Bijan at 5. We had Cooper Kupp at 6, Kelsey at 7, Tyreek Hill, who I think is going to have a really good year. Everything I'm hearing out of camp and from him. He's going 8, Saquon Barkley 9, and then Derrick Henry rounding out the top 10. But one point that I want to talk about is quarterbacks going so early. I don't know how you feel about it in snake drafts. Me personally, I'm one to avoid it. I take them later on, but we see Patrick Mahomes going as a first pick in the 2nd round. How do you feel about that one?
So Mahomes, I wouldn't mind, but 2nd round's probably a little bit too early. Mahomes, I probably would have considered if he's there for the 3rd round. I'd maybe consider it, but that'd probably be the only quarterback, if I'm in all honesty.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm willing to wait till the 8th or 9th round to get a quarterback. There's going to be I wouldn't say an overrated position when it comes to fantasy, but with that position, you can definitely go off and it could be a freaking Jared Goff.
Yeah, most definitely. So I'm back up on the clock. I'm going to go ahead and take A.J. Brown, even though I don't like the Eagles whatsoever. Right here on pick 11, to have back-to-back picks in the snake draft. I would have loved to pick Jonathan Taylor under normal circumstances. It does scare me a little bit. But then it's between Jalen Waddle and probably Chris Olave here. So I'm still gonna go Jonathan Taylor and just hope that news comes out and he gets traded before the beginning of the year. So my roster right now I have Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, and Antonio Brown. You're about to come up on the clock, Adrian. What are you looking at?
So right now the best players is going to be Devontae Smith, T. Higgins, or there's a bunch of quarterbacks actually, which I probably won't even consider at this point. I'm probably looking at Devontae Smith or Aaron Jones, to be honest. I'm just looking at the value here in the third round. I'm probably going to go Devontae Smith as well. So that's going to pair me up with my second round pick, who I don't think I mentioned yet. I got CeeDee Lamb at pick number 6 in the second round, right behind Stephon Diggs and then right before Garrett Wilson.
That is right. I forgot that you came up before me again. I do like that CeeDee Lamb pick. And actually, I think that's pretty much his value. I do value him above Garrett Wilson. I also value him above Amon-Ra St. Brown. Um, Even honestly, I think I value him above Devontae Adams, especially with the unknown coming with Jimmy G this year. I do think Devontae Adams is a little bit scary to go after. I'm not sure if you feel the same way.
Oh, absolutely. Because you already kind of know what you're going to get with CD. In fact, especially with them getting Brandon Cooks, that just increases his volume. So he probably won't be getting double teamed as much. So I'm definitely excited to see what the value of CD Lamb is going to be this year.
So since we're on the topic about value, go ahead and tell me who your boom of the year is. So who are you looking for to be the breakout star, the MVP that can win you a league?
So win me the league, I really like Deontay Johnson from the Steelers.
Okay.
I know he gets a lot of receptions, and then just the last year how he had no touchdowns is kind of crazy. It's kind of like one of those unicorn years. I definitely see that kind of turning around, especially if Kenny Pickett does have a better year come year 2, which I'm not really high on him, but if he can just play at least league average, I feel like Deontay Johnson will have a tremendous year.
Yeah, I like that one for sure too. I was always high on Deontay Johnson. Even last year, my brother would make fun of me a lot. Just the past 2 years, but he's just a PPR machine. I do think Kenny Pickett takes another step, like you said. So yeah, Deontay Johnson's a good one. I think he's a sleeper for like a boom of the year. I think a popular pick and one that I've been on for best balls on DraftKings has been Calvin Ridley. Just thinking about it back at his time with the Falcons, he was already a boom machine with Julio Jones. He really doesn't have the competition of Julio Jones. I know they're kind of stacked with Christian Kirk and Zay Jones and Travis Etienne, but things coming out of camp seems like he is going to be getting a lot of targets. He is definitely going to be the number one receiver on that team, and he's coming back from his betting suspension, so I do think he's going to come back with a chip on his shoulder, and I do think it's going to be a productive year for him, so he's one of my booms for this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I like it, especially with Trevor Lawrence. He seems like he's definitely improving each year. I think he definitely has a chance to have a big year, especially with. I definitely think Trevor Lawrence definitely has a chance to be a big year, especially with Calvin really now added to his weapon arc. So it'll definitely be pretty fun to watch.
All right, so I'm back on the clock. I just took Keenan Allen. I'm going to go ahead and open the floor to you now and ask you, who has been your worst pick of all time on a fantasy football draft? And I think that's a good segue.
Yep, and just hit it right on it with Keenan Allen. Last year, so the way we drafted, we had to bet on players. There's like a little salary cap, and I definitely overbet it and I got Keenan Allen with I could have like the same money I could have gotten Justin Jefferson last year, and Keenan Allen was out. I believe like 6 or 7 games. So basically, the whole fantasy football season was out for me. And yeah, me and Keenan Allen are never going to be seen eye to eye ever again.
Yeah, so a little bit of context for everybody. Me and Adrian play in my family's auction draft. It's 30 teams, 3 conferences of 10. This year, we're actually extending to 40 teams, 4 conferences of 10. You play amongst your conference throughout the entire year, and then you meet up in the playoffs. It is a very exciting league, some high buy-ins. We're at 150 this year, again, increasing to 40 teams. And then the part that I like the most is just the live draft. So I'll actually be traveling back home this weekend to do a live draft at home. Like Adrian said, you bid on players. You have a salary cap that you must remain under throughout the waiver wire, throughout trades, throughout the draft. So it's a pretty exciting league. You get your own little feel for being a general manager. And yeah, Adrian last year had one of the mind-blowing picks of Keenan Allen being like the number 3 priced wide receiver out there. And yeah, he was out more than half the year, so I knew that was going to be his hate pick of the night. But with that being said, I followed up Keenan Allen with Alvin Kamara. I know I probably reached on that one, but I already had 3 wide receivers. But the bad thing is, like, both of my running backs can probably miss the first week of the season, as Alvin Kamara suspended 3 games. However, I just like his value there. I do think when he comes back, it's going to be great with Derek Carr there. And just ahead of other running backs that I saw out there, Rashad White, Damian Pierce, James Conner. There's a lot of question marks with those offenses. So I just felt like grabbing Alvin Kamara there and waiting out those 3 weeks was probably going to be the best option.
I definitely like those picks. Just kind of give a recap of the picks I've recently just picked up. I got Aaron Jones recently, and then as well as Amari Cooper. I got Amari Cooper here. What round are we in? The 6th round. I got Amari Cooper in the 5th and Aaron Jones in the 4th. It was basically between Aaron Jones or Cam Akers. That's probably like the best value running back, or James Conner. I really don't like Miles Sanders either, so went ahead and just put the bullet, got Aaron Jones, and then from there followed up with Amari Cooper, which I kind of do like, especially I think Deshaun Watson has a bounce back year. I don't know if he goes back to Houston for him, but I definitely see him definitely having a better year, and Amari Cooper just knows how to get open, one of the better route runners in the league. So it's definitely be exciting for him.
Yeah, Amari Cooper has been one on my best balls list for a while. The other one that I really like is Jerry Jeudy, and I was really thinking about him on that last pick. I just decided to go Kamara, but I really like Jerry Jeudy's chances for a bounce back year with that Denver offense and being the number 1 wide receiver. Like what you said about Amari Cooper, he has some of the best route running out there in the NFL. So I do think he'll be somebody to target. He just needs to be able to learn how to catch the ball and hold on to it.
Exactly.
I see you just came up. You want to go ahead and talk about your pick that you just did?
Yeah, for sure. So in round 6, I just picked Terry McLaurin. You're kind of just now picking to see who can fill out the rest of either your flex or kind of start picking your bench already. I went ahead and went Scary Terry. That was either between him or DeAndre Hopkins, which I really don't like that offense either way in Tennessee. So I just went ahead and went with Terry McLaurin, and I kind of like to see what Sam Howell does with him.
Yeah, I agree with those. Here on this pick, I'm in between. I have 2 back-to-back picks again. I already have 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. We have a lot of position players right now that can be in flex. I think this first pick is going to be, I know you had said him earlier, so it wasn't because I snagged him. I just really like Cam Akers for a bounce-back year. He's my comeback player of the year bet if I had one. And then here I'm kind of between of going for another running back or another wide receiver. I hope DJ Moore has a good year with Justin Fields. That's one that I'm hoping for. I also think Marquise Brown can have a good year once Kyler Murray comes back. I think he's going to be coming back earlier in the season. But I'm just going to go ahead and take DJ Moore to start off the season with his quarterback, be dynamic, and be that team's number 1 wide receiver.
I really like that pick with DJ Moore. With Marquise Brown, I'm not really sold on him. I think it's been like 3 or 4 seasons in a row where he hasn't had over 1,000 yards. That's something I'm just like kind of like scares me away, especially with the quarterback situation going there and a whole new offense, I believe. Right here, I'm on the clock here for round 7. I think I'm between either J.K. Dobbins, Pacheco, or Christian Kirk. I'm probably gonna go J.K. Dobbins. I kind of like that offense. It's probably a coin flip between him and Pacheco, but I just went with Dobbins. I think he's finally like fully recovered from that ACL tear, and he's a full go.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think Dobbins and Akers are kind of in that same scenario. I just prefer Akers a little bit more because he doesn't have a running quarterback to compete with compared to Dobbins and Baltimore, but I do think both of them are set up for comeback years after their injuries. I know Cam Akers was back at the end of last year, but it still seemed like he was trying to get his feet under him, and I do think now he's going to be at full strength. Hopefully he could just stay out of trouble and stay in tune, because I know he has a couple of attitude issues that have come up in the past. With that being said, if you're looking through the slate of picks that have come by, based on where they were picked, which one is your least favorite? And I'll give you a couple time. I'll tell you mine. Looking through it, I do think first I had already mentioned it. Patrick Mahomes going that early in a snake draft. You just really want to try to load up on running backs and wide receivers. Those top tier guys go quick to waste a second round pick. That's something I really like. Um, Somebody else that I'm not a fan of. I guess in round five it's not that bad, but Debo Samuel and right before him Darren Waller, both of those two picks I'm not a fan of. Debo Samuel's never been one to be, or not since that first year he exploded on the scene, to be a number 1 through number 5 wide receiver. I did think this player there was plenty of value under him still, like Jerry Jeudy, like Deontay Johnson, Brees Hall, Amari Cooper. I love all of them over him. And then to take Darren Waller in round 5 is also a stretch. If it's not Mark Andrews, if it's not Travis Kelce, I'm probably not touching a tight end until round 8, 9, 10. Probably 10 is probably would be the bet that I take a tight end in.
I definitely agree. In fact, I think I had Darren Waller probably as my pick, especially in round 5. I don't remember the last time he actually had a full, complete, healthy season. But someone just took Kyle Pitts in round 8. I think I value that pick higher than the Darren Waller. I'm here in round 8 to pick my pick as well. I'm between David Montgomery, Dalvin Cook, or Brandon Ayuk.
Mm-hmm.
I might go Ayuk here just because of the fact I think he has a better year and starts exploding in that offense, even though he kind of did last year. But I think he takes another step. He's also another receiver who has definitely had great route running in his repertoire. So I think I like the Brandon Ayuk pick here in round 8.
Yeah, I like that one too. I actually like Brandon Ayuk over Debo Samuel, to be completely honest, based on his value. That is somebody I'd rather wait a couple more rounds and take Brandon Ayuk rather than trying to snag Debo Samuel, which seems like a reach earlier in the rounds. Here, I'm actually thinking about securing the quarterback that's at the top of the list at Deshaun Watson. Like what you're talking about with the Amari Cooper, I do think he has a bounce back year. And then there's a sleeper that I like later on in the draft that's associated to Deshaun Watson. So I'm going to go ahead and take him here and hopefully pair him up with somebody later on. Now here, I really like these two guys to have some good years here. Jahan Dotson and Khalil Herbert. I'm between both of them for my next pick. I'm probably going to go ahead and take Khalil Herbert. Even though he does have some strong competition, it's going to be a loaded backfield. I do think he takes over the reins. And behind their new play calling, I do think it'll be a successful year with Khalil Herbert on screens, on runs. I do think he's bound for a breakout year, now taking over the running back 1 in Chicago.
I really like that Khalil Herbert pick. The only thing I would be really scared of is I don't know if he'll be the goal line. So just getting those touchdowns is I feel like going to be kind of tough for him. In fact, the pick I would actually want to hear in the round 9 just win is with Jordan Addison. I feel like that's going to be a really good pick, especially with that the Vikings offense. It's not really a great offense, but I think him being the number 2 guy definitely opened doors for him and Justin Jefferson. So I really like that pick. I actually just got back on the clock here. I think I'm actually just going to go quarterback and get Dak Prescott.
Oh God.
I'm hoping I think the interceptions for last year were kind of a fluke. The majority of them should have been on the receivers, but hoping for a bounce back, at least come in the interception range. And he has a better receiving core with Brandon Cooks now added, and I feel like they'll actually use Tony Pollard in the receiving game as well, something that's been missing since Zeke's rookie year basically.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, all jokes aside, I'm wearing a Cowboys jersey right now for this football draft. I also love Mahomes. You'll see me in his jersey later on in the year. At the end of the day, Prescott does have a solid floor. Just his interceptions, man, it's a little bit scary. I know people are saying, oh, it's out of the norm for him. It's going to be a bounce back year. I don't know if it's completely out of the norm for him, to be completely honest. I know some of them bounced off his receivers' hands, things of that nature. But there was a lot of stuff that just seems very common, and throughout the years, it seems like his ass was saved by receivers' catches or by dropped interceptions at the end of the day. If it gets to that point, this is like a if you know type of joke. I might just go watch a Cowboys game and just, hope for the same thing to happen. Yeah, just because if I go to a Cowboys game, I've gone to 2 Cowboys games recently. One was the Giants game. That's when he snaps his ankle a couple years back. And then last year I go to the season opener against the Buccaneers. Was it last year? Yeah, right. Last year.
Yep.
And what was it? His thumb that he broke?
Yep. Out for like 5-6 weeks after that.
Yeah, so if I feel like the Cowboys need saving, I'll go ahead and snag a ticket somewhere nearby and go and save the Cowboys season. Bring Cooper Rush in.
Yeah, if it's your championship week and you have Dak, you're going against Dak Prescott, by all means, go ahead and get Dak a ticket. By all means, you probably just won the championship.
Yep, that's a sure bet. Now you're back on the clock.
I'm drafting here in round 10. I actually like Odell here. I don't think he has obviously a receiver one. Maybe his high is probably, his ceiling is probably a receiver 2 status.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm scared of, he hasn't really played since the torn ACL, so I don't know how that's going to affect him. But such a great athlete, such a great receiver. I don't know how well he's going to do. I see you just now on the clock. Who you think can use that?
Oh, dude. I honestly liked Odell. So 2 of my favorite players that I was looking at was Kirk Cousins as my backup quarterback since I have Justin Jefferson, as well as Odell. I am high on Odell. Like what you said, I do think he has a ceiling this year, but I do think it's value for a bounce back year and a wide receiver 2, 3, or flex. But here I'm going to go ahead and just take the top player on the board, DeAndre Swift. Behind the Eagles' O-line, I do think a lot of things can go well. I do think this matches his value because some of his touchdowns will be taken from other running backs, and of course Jalen Hurts' running ability. And then my back-to-back pick, this one's a little bit difficult, and if my brother sees this, he's going to be like, again, I'm going to go ahead and take Michael Thomas and just pray to God this is the year that he gets back into form. I know he has competition with Chris Olave, so he does have a ceiling. But Michael Thomas with the short little slants, I do think is a weapon that Derek Carr will utilize, hopefully, and hopefully he just stays healthy and wants to play football this year.
Most definitely. I think pretty much all the Saints Nation can agree on that. You can just get more than 4 games out of Michael Thomas. That's definitely a W. I'm on the clock here for round 11. Start probably filling out the rest of my team. I have pretty much half of my bench. I need a tight end and a defense and a kicker still. I might go just the highest tight end here with David Njoku. Just kind of like how you mentioned with Deshaun Watson, I actually like Njoku's value here in round 11. I think he'll definitely be a good red zone target, and he's probably a third down target as well when they do decide to pass.
Yeah, I like Njoku, and I like what you said. I think I'm going to start filling out my roster. Honestly, defense kicker in snake drafts, I honestly leave until the very end. And that's literally the last 2 rounds. I will not jump any higher. Defenses, it's so hit and miss to try to identify which defense is going to be number 1. Last year, the Patriots ended up number 1 at the end of the year, I want to say, for fantasy. And in most ESPN leagues, they weren't even drafted. So that just tells you the amount of variety that comes with defenses. And it's somebody that you can do a flyer on week in and week out. Just try to play the defense on the waiver wire that has the best matchup. That's something that's worked for me in the past so that you could save that defensive pick until the end and focus on getting your flex players throughout the draft.
Most definitely. I'm kind of on the same boat. I just want to get a good tight end here. That's pretty much like a tough position. And if you're not getting a top 10 tight end, you're not really going to get really that many points out of that position. With the defense and the kicker, whether it's a snake draft or auction style, I'm not spending more than the minimum or using my last 2 picks on them.
Yeah, most definitely. And I see you're on the clock, so where are you going here?
So I'm actually looking between Quentin Johnson and Rondale Moore, the top 2. I really like Quentin Johnson with the Chargers, especially knowing Keenan Allen and Mike Williams' injury history. I really think he'll excel in that receiver 3 position and eventually become receiver number 2 in that offense.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, year in and year out, there's injury issues. It seems like the Chargers will never be healthy at the right time. So I could definitely see what you're talking about there. So yeah, I don't blame you with that pick. One of my favorite picks and the sleeper pick that I was talking about earlier is coming up, so hopefully he does fall to me. The way I'm going to use this last 2 bench picks, and you can tell me what your strategy will be. I'm going to take 1 more flex and then try to get a backup quarterback, and then it's just filling out the rest of my roster, which is tight end, defense, and kicker. So I'm actually going to go ahead and take that sleeper pick that I was talking about, and that is Elijah Moore. Just seeing the way they've been utilizing him in camp, seeing the way they've been utilizing him in preseason, very excited for his production this year. And hopefully it's something that he can go hand in hand with Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is more of an outside guy. I do think Elijah Moore can move inside, outside, play from the backfield, so I'm excited for that one. And then I'll go ahead and take the quarterback here, and I'm going to go ahead and take Anthony Richardson. I'm just going to take a flyer on him there. Yeah.
I like that Anthony Richardson pick. I think there's gonna be some games where he's gonna have like 3 or 4. Well, okay, not 3 or 4, like 2 to 3 interceptions, and then there's gonna be some games where he has like 3 or 4 touchdowns. Kind of just like he'll grow as the more he plays, especially like late in the year when he kind of needs him to clutch up. I think that's when he'll really be hitting his stride. I'm on the clock here. I pick round 13. I'm kind of the same way with the bench. I probably go one more position player. I have 2 spots left. I'll probably go one more position player and then probably go a backup quarterback, unless there's someone really enticing that I like and I want to pick up. I'm going to go Michael Gallup here.
Okay.
Here in the 13th round. I think he's going to, what I've been reading from camps, especially knowing that I'm a Cowboys fan, he's having a tremendous year, or just tremendous camp so far. He's having a bounce back. Looks like he's starting to trust his ACL again and getting his confidence back, which I'm hoping he does. He's definitely a good red zone target and just a guy that when Dak needs to have a 50-50 ball, that's his go-to.
Yeah, I agree. I've honestly always liked Michael Gallup. He's a perfect number 2, honestly. He can stay on the outside, can win you those 50-50 balls, and can be a game changer. So I do like that pick. Honestly, I feel like now coming up on the draft board, we're going to have a run at tight ends, to be completely honest. Oh, and somebody I just saw go off the board, DJ Chark. That was one of my favorite players on DraftKings Best Ball, but he actually suffered an injury today. So he might not be playing at all, if at all, this season. But that was one of my favorite picks, DJ Chark. So now I was trying to identify another Carolina wide receiver because, I mean, Bryce Young's going to have to throw to somebody at some point.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And look who just came off the board is Adam Thielen, who I think Chark isn't there. Adam Thielen definitely elevates the receiver number 1. I don't think Adam Thielen is capable of having receiver number 1 numbers, but I think he's now going to have to be forced to. He's going to have to grow with Bryce Young on the reign. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see.
All right, so we're getting to the last few picks. I just took my third to last pick, and that's when I finally took my tight end. I took Charles, or I don't even know how to say his first name. It's not Charles, but Okonkwo from the Titans. I've just been reading good things about him. Like I said, I don't place much value on the Titans if I'm not grabbing Kelsey or Andrews at the beginning. And then here for defense, again, I'm going to go ahead and jump to kicker instead, and I'm going to take Harrison Butker. Again, defense is something with a lot of variety. I'd rather take a high-end kicker who has a high-scoring offense behind him. That's my explanation of my pick there.
Okay, I really like those picks. Kind of just getting to this board with round 14. I went ahead and picked up a defense. Got the Cowboys defense. Here in round 15, I'm actually going to go another position player instead of getting another quarterback to fill up the bench. I'm going to go with the running back from Miami, who I think will eventually become the starter in the workforce, especially when he does get healthy. I know he got injured recently. Is Devon Achane? Say his name. I think he has capability of becoming RB1 mid-season, if not hopefully sooner. Hopefully, if that injury is not too serious. I think I read a report he's only going to be out like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah,
it's nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I was reading the same report. I do like that pick as well. He's like one of those deeper sleepers for later on. And I do like that pick. There's a lot of, and just in that offensive scheme, there's a lot of availability to do special things with the speed that he has. So I do think he fits that team well. And I read the same thing. I think it was a minor shoulder injury that he avoided major injury. So I do like that pick that you were talking about there. And then I see you're coming up with 156. Which position do you still have available that you're going to be drafting for?
So for my last pick, I'm going to be picking a kicker. Definitely going to be running the Cowboys kicker at all costs. Looks like they can make an extra point to save their life when the game's on the line. Probably looking here at Greg Zuerlein. Greg the leg here for the Jets. I'm just thinking about offenses that are going to score a lot. Maybe Jason Sanders with the Dolphins. Looks like I'm probably going to go with Greg Zuerlein with the Jets. I kind of believe what Aaron Rodgers is going to do with that offense. Hopefully they'll score a lot, or at least get it within field goal range. I think he'll definitely elevate that offense where Greg Zuerlein can get at least a couple of points to steal you there.
Yep, I like that. With the previous pick, I had again picked the kicker on the higher scoring team of the Chiefs here. I'm picking the last pick of the draft. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out with the Commanders' defense. I really like their defensive line. I do think their offense will be a little bit more competitive this year, resulting in less blowouts, less turnovers. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the Commanders' defense. So I'll go ahead and highlight my team, and then I'll give you your opportunity to do yours. So draft is complete. Again, I take Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown in my first two picks. Follow that up with Jonathan Taylor, who I pray to God gets traded. Keenan Allen, praying to God he stays healthy. I do think I reach a little bit with Kamara, but he can be a top 5 running back when he bounces back from his suspension. I have Cam Akers, DJ Moore. My quarterback will be Deshaun Watson. I have Khalil Herbert, DeAndre Swift, I apologize. Michael Thomas, and then I'm pairing up Elijah Moore, who I feel is going to be a deep sleeper with Deshaun Watson. Taking Anthony Richardson, just going ahead stashing him away just in case he does break out in his rookie season, and shows us a little bit of what Justin Fields did at the end of last year. And then I took Okonkwo as our tight end, Harrison Butker as a kicker, and then Commanders defense. You want to go ahead and summarize yours, Adrian?
Yes. So the first pick I took Bijan at the fifth pick, which I really do like that pick and that value right there for him. Anywhere from that 4 to 7 range, if you can get Bijan, I would really highly recommend snagging him there. Second one, I went CeeDee Lamb. Then from there, I went to Devontae Smith, to Aaron Jones. Went ahead and capped out my flex position with Amari Cooper. And then started filling out my bench position players with Terry McLaurin, J.K. Dobbins, Brandon Ayuk, which those three I really do think can evaluate to receiver 1 or running back 1 positions. And then I got Odell Beckham Jr., David Njoku, and Quentin Johnston. And as a quarterback, I got Dak Prescott. And then to fill out the rest of my bench, as you can tell, I'm a Cowboys fan. I got Michael Gallup in the Cowboys defense. And then with the Greg Zuerlein as my kicker and Devon Achane as my last spot on my bench.
Nice, I like it. It was a solid draft overall. Is there a pick that you maybe regret taking at that point in time, or just taking in general?
Maybe Michael Gallup. I know I just raved about him, but if I probably can get him a little bit lower, or if I can get probably a little bit of value with another position player, like another running back, I would probably consider it, or maybe another quarterback. I don't have a backup quarterback, so he's definitely a player I'd probably consider putting on the bubble later on in the season when I do need to start filling out for the players on the bye week, such as like a Dak Prescott with the quarterback position or a defense. Something that either, if he's having a good year, I'll probably just bite the bullet, or but more likely he'd probably be the player that's on the bubble, so to be dropping to get another position.
Yeah, a player that I could see myself dropping is probably Anthony Richardson, if not Elijah Moore, if it just doesn't pan out for me. But the person that I don't like when I took him at that point in time was probably Keenan Allen, to be completely honest. I probably could have taken another running back where I didn't feel the need to reach for Alvin Kamara on the next pick. So it would probably been Keenan Allen there and just paired up with another running back. I would need to go back and see what running backs were there available. But yeah, Keenan Allen's just one of those guys, like what you said, and the reason you hate him is just his injury history. He's getting up there in age. But it is a high-powered offense when he is healthy. He is a PPR machine, so there is upside there. But yeah, that would probably be one that I will probably come back and regret if I have any regrets of this draft.
You're preaching to the choir here with the Keenan Allen. I'm the full-on hate Keenan Allen bust. I don't think I'll ever consider myself to be betting for Keenan Allen ever again in our auction draft. I don't even want to mention his name. I have nothing to do with Keenan Allen at this point.
All right, with that being said, before we close out today's draft, and thank you very much for participating again, I'm going through the ESPN top player rankings, and I'm doing it through PPR. I'm not sure if you want to open up on your end. I'm going to go ahead and just ask us per position, like who our top 3 or 5 players are per position. And I'll go ahead and start us off at quarterback. In PPR, to be completely honest, I love having Lamar Jackson. I love having Justin Fields. And if I have to go with somebody other than that, it's probably going to be between Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. I know that's leaving Patrick Mahomes out. I know I sound probably dumb saying that out loud. I just love the rushing upsides of the other quarterbacks. of the other quarterbacks in general, and that's the reason I usually tend to lean towards them rather than just leaning only to quarterback or passing upside, which quarterbacks like Mahomes have, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert's, where the rushing is a little bit limited, and they rely more on touchdown passes and passing yards.
I definitely agree with you, especially if you do miss on let's say, a Patrick Mahomes. You don't want to really use a high pick on either a Josh Allen or a Justin Herbert. I really do like the value pick of Justin Fields. I think that he's actually he's take another step within his career, just with having that familiarity, that offense, adding more weapons with DJ Moore, and just being him able to run. I think he's gonna have I think he's gonna have a great year. I think he's gonna have I would say a Jalen Hurts type of year. I don't know if that team will go as far as Jalen Hurts took up, but I think he'll put up similar stats to what he put up last year. I really also like Deshaun Watson this year. I think he's definitely going to take another step and just build all the weapons around him. I think he will definitely have a great year.
Yeah, I guess you don't care for all the massage workers out there, but I'll be avoiding Deshaun Watson. Just kidding. I actually just drafted him. All right, moving on to running back. The player I'm actually avoiding quite often here is Saquon Barkley. I had Saquon last year in my top league. He was awesome. He's coming with a new deal. But at the end of the day, like what we talked about with Keenan Allen, just a lot of injury history. I do feel like it starts repeating itself. He is up there in age. Again, he was used at a high rate last year. I hope not. He's an electric player to watch, even though he is in the same division as the Cowboys. I just love watching him at the end of the day. He's good for the league, so I hope that's not the case, but I am avoiding him a little bit. My favorite running backs, if I'm taking at the top, is McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Tony Pollard. And then you can find a lot of value right now with Jonathan Taylor. I also think there's a lot of value in Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is probably the best, like, just pure runner without the catching ability of everybody else. And that's the reason he does fall lower than everybody else, but he is a great pure runner. Like what you were talking about with Deshaun Watson, I do think they take another step this year, and he's going to be a big part of that and big focal point of that. And he doesn't have Kareem Hunt anymore. So I do think there's a lot of value in Nick Chubb, but my three top running backs are McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Tony Pollard.
I'm kind of similar on your boat. I definitely like Bijan Robinson as up there. My second running back will probably be McCaffrey, and then that's probably the number three. I'd probably actually have Nick Chubb, kind of valuing him a little bit higher, especially now when the fact that Kareem Hunt's no longer there. He's now going to be the number one featured back and everything as far. And I think I saw an article. He's now working on his receiving, so he can be that featured guy. He doesn't have to really leave the field anymore. Then they have to like sub in. As far as running backs that I hate, I do agree with the Barkley. Kind of screams Keenan Allen 2.0 is being able to stay healthy. Just kind of like skimming through it. I don't like the Najee Harris pick either.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not really sold on him. I'm not really sold on Harris and the whole offense.
Yeah.
A pick I would kind of like sleep on that I would really like is the Stevenson pick with the Patriots. I know they just recently picked up Zeke, but I think obviously he's still going to be the featured back. It'll be interesting to see when it comes to the goal line, who gets those carries. I wonder if Zeke's going to get the majority of them, but I really like the Stevenson pick as well as looking through and skimming as well. I kind of still, as much as I love Aaron Jones, I know he's always been within the top 10. I think like 5 years in a row. I just don't know if he can. I think this year is the year that A.J. Dillon finally takes the reins within that offense, becomes the full, even though he's kind of already like slowly going that way, just with a rookie not a rookie quarterback, but now like with Jordan Love now being the full time, I think they're going to start leaning on more to A.J. Dillon and a little bit less of Aaron Jones this year.
Yeah, I can see that. Aaron Jones is a little bit worrisome. I have been picking him up when I find him, because usually I'm targeting wide receivers early. The value pick that I really like in the 20s, is Cam Akers. I'm really high on him. I just really think it's going to be a bounce back year. I do think people undervaluing the Rams just because of the down year that they had and just because of the division that they play in. But I do think they can be competitive on the offensive end. Of course, the focal point is going to be Cooper Kupp, but I do think that lightens up the box for Cam Akers. And I do think Cam Akers has a bounce back year. But moving on to wide receivers, let's go ahead and jump there. Of course, the number one overall wide receiver currently right now is none other than Justin Jefferson, and that's why I took number one overall. I can agree with that. One person I just tend to always fade, and I mean, it does come back to bite me time and time again over the last few seasons, is Ja'Marr Chase. I'm going to fade him again this year. I just don't have much Ja'Marr Chase exposure. My top ones, if I can just grab like the top three wide receivers, is Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and Tyreek Hill. Somebody that I'm avoiding again is Ja'Marr Chase for no particular reason. Like, there's nothing about it. I'm not really a fan. I do think he's like a boomer bust week in and week out. Somebody else that I like value of, Garrett Wilson has now become a popular pick with Aaron Rodgers, and that speaks for itself. Scrolling down, number 20, I really do think Jerry Jeudy as well as Calvin Ridley at 22. I do think they can be top 15, top 10 wide receivers, to be completely honest, at the end of the year. Just because they will be their team's number ones. They do have sharp running, route running coming from the University of Alabama. I just really like those two at the end of the day. If I can get a number one receiver of those top three that I like, and then one of those two, I think I'm doing pretty well in snake drafts or auction drafts. So those are my favorite picks overall.
I really like those picks, and yeah, kind of skimming through the picks. Kind of have 1A, 1B with Justin Jefferson and Ja'Marr Chase, and then from there you have Cooper Kupp with Tyreek Hill. I'm really high on Tyreek Hill. I would actually, if I had the choice, I'd probably take him over Justin Jefferson and Ja'Marr Chase. Actually,
yeah.
That'll probably bite me later on in the year, but I really like what Tyreek Hill does for that offense. I know he's been like injury prone in the past where he misses a game or two, but I really think he has a chance to really explode in that offense next year. Just being able to the way they're able to utilize him in that offense, and just kind of skimming through the rest of the board. I'm actually really high on Jackson Smith-Njigba. I think that's gonna be a pick. Him being the receiver number 3 that eventually becomes the receiver number 2, overseeing Tyler Lockett's position.
Yeah,
I really like his value there. He can definitely snag Njigba kind of within like round 7. I don't even know if he would make it that late. That's a pick I would definitely consider taking Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Yeah, I like Jackson Smith. I do think he's more like a dynasty player later on in the rounds, but I can agree with you there. And I agree with you, honestly, with Tyreek Hill. I can see him becoming wide receiver 1. People are saying he's saying he wants to go for 2,000 yards. His offensive coordinator doesn't think that's impossible or out of reach for him either. I do think it can be a big year for Tyreek Hill, and any one of those top 4 players I could see and not argue with or be surprised by them being number 1. We all know what Cooper Kupp has been capable of, being the Triple Crown winner a couple of years back. We know what Justin Jefferson is capable of. Ja'Marr Chase, obviously, with the speed, and with Joe Burrow at quarterback. And then just Tyreek Hill with his speed, with Tua hopefully staying healthy. Honestly, if Tua would have stayed healthy last year, I do think he would have had a good shot at number 1 as well and given Justin Jefferson a run for his money. But yeah, I think wide receivers, between those top 4, you can go any way, to be completely honest. And you might look dumb for not going one way or the other at the end of the year, but I can see a case for all of them. And then, like what you said, after that, I do think you have a solid tier between Davante Adams, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, and Garrett Wilson. I feel like there's very minimum that will separate them, and then it starts falling into the rest of the draft order, to be completely honest.
I definitely agree. But especially, I like that second tier because I think those will give you consistent numbers week in and week out. Like, you'll know for sure until you get at least 6 catches out of them. Hopefully, maybe a touchdown and maybe close to 100 yards, if not over 100 yards there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. And then let's jump into tight end. Like I said, this is one that I usually avoid when we do our auction draft. Tight end isn't mandatory. So the 2 people that you see normally taken in our auction draft, which will be this weekend, is Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews. But now that I'm playing snakes for ESPN and when I'm doing best ball, obviously Travis Kelce's there, but I hardly ever take him. I'd much rather have any of those wide receivers we just talked about, or take Bijan or McCaffrey or Eckler, all before Travis Kelce, to be completely honest. I know I lose points there at the tight end position, but he also doesn't have a ceiling week in and week out like the other guys do at those skill positions. So, of course, Travis Kelce's there. Of course, Mark Andrews is there. Let's not talk about those too much. Let's talk about other tight ends that you would target. For me personally, I like Pat Freiermuth from Pittsburgh a lot, and Dallas Goedert a lot. And if I had to pick somebody lower than them, I think Okonkwo is going to be my best bet. I also have like a deep sleeper with Irv Smith Jr. in Cincinnati. I do think Joe Burrow will find him in the middle of the field when you have T. Higgins and and Chase on the outside. I do think that opens up the middle of the field for you. Sometimes a little bit of a dump off. I do think Irv Smith can have a sneaky year there at 23, being a top 15 tight end. Where are you going tight end?
For tight end, I'm just kind of like skimming to the board. I really like Noah Fant. I know he's ranked number 30. He was kind of like Geno Smith's safety blanket last year. I really like actually really like Austin Cooper at number 35 with the Raiders.
Okay.
Kind of just hope Jimmy G kind of just like prays and can get elevate, take that offense to the next step, and hopefully can be more than a little bit more of a game manager. A pick that I know is kind of a pick that I actually kind of like is Darren Waller with the Giants.
Okay.
If he can actually stay healthy, I think there's a chance to put up Kelsey type of numbers, but at the same time, that's just trying to him staying healthy. Just by reading reports of the Giants, looks like he's actually the chemistry that he's already developed already with Daniel Jones has been tremendous. He's kind of his go-to target. I think when the latest preseason game, the first 3 targets that Daniel Jones went to was Darren Waller. But at the same time, you actually have to trust that Darren Waller will stay healthy. At the same time, you also have to trust Daniel Jones. So those are 2 question marks. It's kind of scary. And then you also have George Kittle within that same area where Kittle's always injury prone as well, but that offense just kind of seems to get him open most of the time. So that's definitely a fun pick to look into.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on both ends. Waller, we saw what he's capable of a couple of years back with Oakland. Honestly, I worry is Daniel Jones on that offense. The Giants, I'm not a fan of Daniel Jones at all, to be completely honest. I do think his paycheck is on the back of Saquon Barkley. Some of his decision-making is mind-blowing. I guess he does have the rushing upside. But I do think it was a mistake for them to have signed him as their franchise quarterback, just like I feel like it was a mistake for the Cowboys to sign Dak Prescott at the time. I just feel it was kind of like a panic move. You don't know what you're going to be able to find in the draft or in the free agency market. I understand that, and it's a quarterback-driven league. I just think those 2 quarterbacks in general in the NFC East will hold back their teams until their contracts run out, to be honest. It's expensive contracts that limit what you're able to do, and we're seeing evidence of that when the Giants were hesitant of even paying their top running back, and then the Cowboys were hesitant on paying Zach Martin. So the 2 top players of those teams, you're not paying them because you were paying your quarterback big money. So that's what scares me about Darren Waller, but he does definitely have that upside in terms of skill level if he could stay healthy. So,
most definitely. And one pick I probably really look into if I had to go for a tight end as well, it's probably Hayden Hurst with the Panthers. Just knowing because it's Bryce Young as a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks tend to go to tight ends more often. It's kind of their safety blanket. So that's definitely a pick I would also look into.
Yeah, no, I like that. And we were just talking about that earlier. DJ Chark is probably out now for a while. So just looking for a receiver there, I can see definitely the value there. Then moving on to kicker, we all know who the GOAT is from the University of Texas at Austin, Justin Tucker. Can't go any other way. If you have the top choice of a kicker, it has to be Justin Tucker. But obviously, Evan McPherson's there. Daniel Carlson, has a big leg down in Las Vegas. I just think their scoring does go down with Jimmy G, so I'm a little bit worried about that one. Harrison Butker, year in and year out, is one of my favorite kickers with Kansas City, the high-scoring offense. I know he had a little bit of a issue at the end of last year, but he got back on track in the playoffs. I do think he bounces back. I would really like, and it's just unfortunate, another UT player here, Cameron Dicker, but Brandon Staley and the Chargers just go for it too much on 4th down. That takes away so much of his point-scoring ability that I kind of tend to avoid him. So if I have to go with anybody here, like if I can't get Tucker, McPherson, Butker, or even Carlson, which are the top 4 kickers, I would probably lean towards going after Brandon McManus. Honestly, a big leg in Jacksonville. I didn't even know he had ended in Jacksonville until now. Jacksonville, I think, is going to be a high-scoring offense. They play in a really crappy division, so I do think they're going to scoring will be up this year. And I like Brandon McManus in Jacksonville, to be completely honest. And in the winter, down in the South, he's not going to have extreme weather conditions to be faced with. So I like Brandon McManus out of the top, and other than the top 4 kickers. What do you think?
I definitely agree with you, kind of with pretty much everything you just said, especially with the Cameron Dicker info. And if he were to actually kick the ball and kick the field goal, he would actually be within that second tier with Harrison Butker and everyone else. A pick I would actually look into that I really like is Young Ho Koo. I think he was like number 5 or something like that with him kicking last year, and just knowing the fact that Bijan's down that offense, just knows like they'll be able to drive down the field and hopefully get in within field goal range to with them hopefully getting the ball to the end zone. If not, you just know for a fact that Young Koo's reliable. I think he was 16 for 17 or 16 for 18 last year when he came within inside the 40. Pretty reliable kicker, doesn't really miss much. I don't think he missed an extra point last year.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that's more overlooked now than it usually is in the past. So I would definitely look into Young Ho Koo.
Yeah, no, I like Young Ho Koo also. I do think he has quite a bit of upside, what you said, and we talked about earlier. The Atlanta can have a boom season. If Desmond Ridder just progressed over the offseason, to be completely honest, they're also playing in a weak division down in the South. That division is up for grabs, to be completely honest. If I had to pick one team right now, I'd probably pick the Saints with Derek Carr being the best quarterback in the division. But Atlanta definitely has a shot at being that best team coming out of that division, and that would definitely help Young Ho Koo's prospects at being a top kicker. Now to finish off, we're going to go into defenses. Again, this is the one I feel just you can kind of just shoot blindly and see what you land with, and then play it week in and week out based on matchups. But a team I really like, I do like the Commanders, to be completely honest. I do think their defensive line is one to be not to be messed with, especially if Chase Young can come back healthy. A team that was at the top of their ranks last year, the Eagles defense, I do think takes a step back. They lost a lot of quality defenders this year. They still play against the Cowboys. They're going to have a tougher schedule this year, so I don't think they score as well. And then I know you're going to pick them either way, but the Cowboys, their ability to turn over offenses with the cornerbacks that they have with Gilmore and Diggs. They have Micah Parsons rushing the passer. They're capable of a lot, to be completely honest, and then you can never go wrong with the Bills or 49ers with all the playmakers that they have on their side.
Most definitely, you kind of hit the spot on, especially with the Cowboys defense. Just the fact that they're able to not only create turnovers, but also score on those turnovers. They're able to get sacks within Parsons or DeMarcus Lawrence. A pick, I really like the Commanders pick, especially if with that D-line, if they're able to elevate to get sacks. And one pick I'm probably looking into is probably the Seahawks. I actually really like their secondary. I think that defense takes as a whole unit takes another step. I don't know if they'll ever become the Legion of Boom like it once was, but I definitely see them maybe going to that top 10, maybe top 5 range, but I can definitely see them being a top 10 defense next year.
Yeah, no, I can see that also. They have some really good defensive backs. I like that pick. Year in and year out, you can't also go wrong with the Patriots and the Ravens are other two that I look towards. The Ravens just picked up Jadeveon Clowney. I know he's washed at this point, but he's still a rusher nonetheless. And then the Patriots, especially if you could find, like during the year, if you find the Patriots on the waiver wire and they're going against a rookie quarterback, get the Patriots. Bill Belichick just eats them alive, and that's one of those things that I like to do. If you're on DraftKings to play daily fantasy, if you have a weekend that the Patriots are playing like Bryce Young or CJ Stroud this year, definitely take the Patriots. You already saw it kind of in the preseason. So with that being said, closing out, let's go, and this might be a mistake just because I know we're drafting against each other. But at the end of the day, I do appreciate it all for the channel, so I do appreciate your support. Let's go ahead and just round it off with your absolute avoid for this year and your absolute favorite player of this year, and then I'll close it out with mine.
Definitely, it was definitely fun to do this. Yeah, we're probably giving away our picks here, so definitely the picks when we mention them this upcoming weekend probably go a little bit higher than we wanted to, but that's all fun in the game. One that I'm probably avoiding, which you guys probably heard this whole show me talk about, it's probably Keenan Allen. Probably won't ever mention his name ever again after this show. Don't want nothing to do with him. He hurt me that much last year. Last year was my receiver number one and gave me pretty much like 5 points throughout the whole season. Also, like, I'll give you one receiver and one running back. One running back pick I really like this year is probably going to be Nick Chubb. I think he has a really tremendous year this year in that offense, especially knowing how probably won't be stacked. That box probably won't be stacked as much, knowing the fact that Deshaun Watson could hopefully take that next step. And then for a receiving pick that I really like, it's going to be Jackson Smith-Njigba. I always fell in love with him coming out of high school. I was hoping he would go to Texas, but that didn't work out. He went to Ohio State and flourished there. And then I think he was going to come into the league and flourish. I wouldn't say right off the bat, but once he kind of gets his feet wet, I know he's out for like the first 2 or 3 weeks. But once he gets his feet wet and really learns how to get into the NFL game, he's going to be a tremendous receiver and probably have receiver one upside.
Yeah, I like both of those overall picks. And Jacob Smith, like I said, is somebody I'm looking for in dynasty leagues if I can find him. In terms of my favorite picks, and I'll also go wide receiver and running back, I'm going to stay away from the top guys for running back. I do think it's pretty obvious of like anybody would want Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson, Austin Eckler. And even then, Tony Pollard is a high guy at the end of the day. I'm really high on Tony Pollard this year. I am taking him earlier in drafts than what his ADP shows because I do think he can be a top 3 running back this year. He doesn't have Zeke to compete with in the goal line. As long as he stays healthy, to be honest, I do think he's set up for a big year. Even what you're talking about with Dak, they want to be Dak friendly, I think is what they were calling it. And the only way to be Dak friendly is with more screen passes, I would want to say, or more running the ball and playing play action. So I do see Tony Pollard having a big year. And then I think major value right now, just because nobody knows what's going to happen with him, is Jonathan Taylor. If he ends up somewhere that is going to use him, that is going to pay him, I would love to see what he can do. We saw what he was able to do and be RB1 a couple years back. He does have the receiving capability. He is a pure runner. So I would love to see what happens with Jonathan Taylor. If he stays in Indy, then that pick is just messed up. But if he is able to get traded to a good situation, they are able to pay him. I do think Jonathan Taylor is going to be big value from where he's been taken. For example, with me, it was in the 4th round, I want to say, 3rd or 4th round. So there can be major value there. In terms of wide receiver, I'm really high on just getting Cooper Kupp back this year, and I honestly think he can end up number 1. We've seen his upside. There is nobody else to compete with. The Rams are going to be down in the dumps compared to their division mates, so I do think there's going to be calling for a lot of passing, which just increases Cooper Kupp's exposure even more. So I do foresee Cooper Kupp regaining that number 1 overall seed, but you can't go wrong with any of the top 4. And then, the wide receivers I love, I've talked about them a couple times. Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, I really, really love. And then I know we kind of see different eye to eye on this one, but Marquise Brown, I do like him coming back. His value is low. There is no other wide receiver this year like there was with DeAndre Hopkins. Last year, when it was only him and Hopkins was out, he was producing big time. I think the problem is just staying healthy. And similar to what I was talking about with Cooper Kupp, there is going to be need for passing. They will find themselves down late, and there's going to be a lot of garbage time exposure. He is a home run hitter, Hollywood Brown at the end of the day. So I do like Marquise Brown quite a bit later on in the rounds.
Yeah, kind of hit it spot on. I definitely don't agree with Marquise Brown. Just did a quick overview. I know it's kind of different offenses, but he's only had one 1,000 year. He's only had 1 year of over 1,000 yards. That was in 2021 with the Ravens. Last year he had 709 yards, and I know he's kind of injured. That's also something that's kind of eat his career so far is just being able to stay healthy. And now the fact that he's torn this season without a reliable quarterback one, that's Como play out there. But I really don't know how well that offense will flourish until Kyler Murray comes back, and then from there, just even then, how well is that offense going to operate, and if he's able to actually stay on the field.
Yeah, I agree there. Well, I think that's pretty much closing it out. I wish you the best of luck this coming weekend in our auction drafts. I know we're probably going to be bidding on each other's players now, but it's all good, all fun and games. It's an exciting time for fantasy football to be back. Looking forward to it. It was something that's been missing. It's also week 0 for college football. So I'll be posting picks later on this week, probably Friday night, for week 0 starting off on Saturday. So excited for football to be back. Thank you very much, Adrian, for doing this. Next year, hopefully we get the stream up and running and you're able to be on the call and it's a little bit more efficient and a little bit more active, but I truly do appreciate you being on this call.
Of course, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, definitely my favorite time of the year. Fantasy football means the start of football season. The end of the dog days comes sports, so definitely my favorite time of the year. Thank you so much, Zach.
All right, well, that is it for me, guys. Stay tuned for tomorrow's picks. Stay tuned for week 0 of college football picks and MMA. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, and then follow and like on Instagram and on Twitter, ZT Fully Loaded. Let's have a good fantasy football season. Let's have a good football season overall. And thank you guys very much for tuning in. Catch you guys later.